All right. Next up, we're excited to have with us Sarah Rasmusen. She is Chief Customer Officer at Lands' End. We are excited to have about 20 minutes of Sarah's time for this discussion on planning around e-commerce bottlenecks this holiday. A little background on Sarah. Prior to Lands' End, she spent time at both Kohl's and Saks Fifth Avenue. She's a veteran e-commerce leader. And a couple pre-discussion congratulations are in order. One, Sarah was named a Chain Store Age 2020 Top Women in Tech. So congratulations on that. Well done. Congratulations also to Sarah and her team at Lands' End for a great second quarter. They generated sales of $312 million, up 4.6%. Compared to 2019 second quarter, and 44% up compared to Q1. All of this when apparel is one of the most challenging categories that we're experiencing during the pandemic. So Sarah is going to walk through a few slides, and then we're going to have a conversation about leadership leading into this upcoming holiday season. So please share what you want to talk to us about, Sarah.
Hi. Oh, thanks, Scott. Nice to be here. I've known Scott, I don't know what came first, e-commerce or Scott, but I've known Scott about that long. Pleasure to be here today with you and your team. Today I'm going to, the topic of the presentation that you asked me to talk was kind of no tears this holiday season. And what I'm going to spend some time talking about is the how Lands' End is planning to do that. And in a nutshell, we plan to thrive with as ever, diligent focus on our customer. I'm going to touch on three things today. Let's get the agenda up. One is our customer profile, and I'm doing this just because I think it's important to level set who the Lands' End customer is, so we can set the stage for how we're planning to take care of her over the holiday season. Next, I'm going to talk about our pandemic reaction because I think for a lot of us, pandemic reaction was kind of a different sort of holiday peak where what we did then certainly has set the stage for how we're going to respond the rest of the year. And then finally, how we're planning to, we're hardly out of the woods, but as we made it past that first peak of panic, how we plan to move forward. So moving right in, who is the Lands' End customer? First and foremost, I wouldn't be the only chief customer officer to say that she loves her customer, but I truly do. So the Lands' End customer, there's about 5.5 million of them. Our website gets 115 million visits a year, and catalog circulation, which is probably how most of you know Lands' End, is by a catalog that's been sent to your home. Is as our primary way, other than digital, our primary way to reach our customer. Lands' End also enjoys a really terrific conversion rate. Obviously, when you mail catalogs to highly qualified customers, they come to your site. So I could tell you of any retail site I've ever worked, Lands' End's conversion rate is bar none the best. So who is she? 80% female. So for the rest of this presentation, I will be referring her to as her. She is decidedly female. She's solidly a boomer, high income, lots of college graduates, and lots of married. We know that she buys for him. And you'll also notice that we have a large penetration in the Midwest and the Northeast. When we talk about customer acquisition, those customers tend to veer on the Gen X side. So hi, I relate to that lady a lot. And so when we talk about how when we go meet and service this customer, you're not going to hear a lot of the methods that are generally employed towards the Gen Zs and the millennials. Our target is a Gen Xer. How big is Lands' End? Again, this is a question I get, like, oh, that's a small website. Not really. This is the company we keep. If you work off of 2019-ish, range. So where we sit, I'm pleased with the company we keep on a digital side, and who knows what this sort will look like in 2020. But lots of players have already changed quite a bit. But we are, one of the originals, landsend.com. True story, actually launched in 1995, 3 weeks before a little website we know as Amazon. Our business is mostly e-commerce. So for all intents and purposes, Lands' End is a digital pure play. Over 90%, as we reported in Q2, over 90% of our earnings were conducted in a digital channel. This pie will change a little bit as we go forward through 2022, but as you can see here, e-commerce is what we do. Our physical store footprint is just 31 stores. Those are company-owned stores. So again, it's a very tiny, very important, but tiny part of our puzzle compared to most other retailers. So, pandemic. This is some words of advice, but also how Lands' End responded, especially as we jump into holiday. So first and foremost, hope is not a strategy. You know, it's a cliche to say that, but you know, really, I think lots of people and people I talked to kind of went into the first March, April with this will get better, this will get better, this is a blip. Not Lands' End, we went polar, like the sky is falling, what does it mean? What does it mean if we can't ship a package? Our distribution centers are in Wisconsin. What happens if the governor says we can't open our distribution centers? We went to those extremes and then operated up from there. And starting from a place of zero, was a way for us to work very tight, very thin, very sharp, and very bright. And that's not unlike how we would actually operate the website on Cyber Monday. Test early, test often. Usually in March and April, we spend a lot of that time doing tests that we think will get us ready for peak. But all of a sudden that peak became lessons we needed to learn for April, May, June. So you know, where we might have let a test sit for a little bit longer to hit a little bit more of confidence, a little bit more critical mass, we zoomed in right away. We tested online, we tested pricing, we tested products, we tested catalog mailing. We went full bore into that approach. And then finally, it's a good time to be in the elastic waist pant business. And I say this, yes, it is a core part of the Lands' End catalog. And yes, you know, with let's get comfy being our tagline, which we picked in January, by the way, you know, could not be a better time to be in the comfort business. And, you know, I say this because it's, you know, of all of the things that we could have done, what we didn't do was take our eye off our core strength. And we spent this time, we leaned into our core customer and we leaned into our core product catalog. And because we had that strong focus, you know, we never questioned, should we be trying to do this or trying to do that? It's like, nope, how many more elastic waist pants can we sell to that great customer? So where do we go from here? We did learn a lot of lessons. And I think as we come out of 20, what we'll see into 21 is what's going to be important to us has changed, certainly from when we started mailing catalogs or started the website. What I see is kind of 3 big buckets for what's going to be important to our customers. First, expanded distribution. It's by the day, I think, well, by the time you're all seeing this, we will have been live in 150 Kohl's stores since September 30th and live on Kohls.com. We're very excited about that distribution. Growing Amazon business, and then internally developing our own marketplace. We have an opportunity there that I think we'll talk a little bit about later. Customer expectations. Again, at Lands' End, we bring it all back to the customer. She's going to be meeting us in more places than ever. So as that customer grows, we need to self-service that customer more and more. So constantly finding new ways to build out our online service model. And then finally, perhaps COVID quieted some of the noise about consumer privacy, but I don't think by much. And I think consumer privacy is something we're going to have to deal with in a much larger way in the very near future. So with that, hope I'll pass it over to you in just a second, Scott, but thank you so much for your time. I hope for all of you, I've lent some color on how Lands' End, you know, 1, got through pandemic with some reasonable success, and 2, how we plan to roll into holiday. So thank you so much.
Well, it's great to hear your story and how what Land's End really took some decisive, clear action at the beginning of the pandemic that's really paid off nicely. And, you know, there could be a lot of situations where you may try a few different strategies, but I think that's the first really important lesson to be learned. So, you know, what I really wanted to talk to you about is around leadership. Although, as much as I would prefer to talk about Gen X things like Breakfast Club and grunge music, we'll have to save that for another time. I should do the responsible thing and talk about business here. So, you know, one of the things I would like to better understand and have you talk about is the management and the leadership adjustments that Land's End made in March at the onset of the pandemic. You talked a little bit about that, but maybe you could tell us about, you know, any of the new processes that you adopted to deal with this fluid situation. Obviously, it required higher levels of collaboration, nimbleness, you know, in terms of communicating with customers and team members that were feeling stressed about the pandemic. But, you know, help us understand, you know, how you were reacting to that as a leadership team.
Yeah, so one of the, among, you know, the, again, kind of operate to a 0 point, we did just lots of things like, you know, the amount of stupid stuff we cleared out over this last year has been tremendous. Pared back Monday morning reports, pared back Monday meetings, skinnied attendance to who are the people who absolutely are going to be making a decision. You know, with the influx of testing that removed so much, I think, or maybe we should try, or things like that, you know, it was just able to reduce a lot of noise for us. We did the obvious things like introduce a lot more town halls, just to make sure that the face-to-face communication was happening. But I'd say first and foremost, being able to pare things back forces people to stay in their swim lanes. And then as we worked through messages and this kind of constant influx of meetings, the mantra of be bright, be brief, be gone has really guided us to just move forward, just keep moving forward. We can't sit here and belabor every single point or every single what if. We just have to keep moving.
Oh, that makes a ton of sense. You know, with this upcoming holiday season, I mean, there's a lot being discussed about e-commerce and the infrastructures of teams that are going to be taxed even more than they already have. I mean, you made this reference to it feeling like Cyber Monday, you know, earlier in the year. You know, getting ready for you know, even more stress on all of the infrastructure and systems. Are there any additional leadership or management processes, you know, beyond what you've already talked about? I mean, is there a war room that you're putting together, or, you know, what are you going to be doing differently? Or do you feel like, you know, you have the infrastructure and the pieces in place to deal with whatever's going to come at you?
Yeah, I think this is the advantage of being primarily a pure play retailer. The way we operate and peak does not really change from how it has in the past. I mentioned the town halls and the stand-ups that we added to keep communication up, you know, in an odd time of year during pandemic, that continue today. You know, typically those would go into effect in I'll say, you know, in some point in November, where our builds are just at the point where we need to be in daily communication. So that that's a practice that we've had in place for years and years. And so, you know, there's little new in that, because I mean, for that, I'd say we kind of act and function like a technology company in that way. You know, I am curious, and because we don't have a large brick and mortar footprint, I think, and I look forward to seeing the impact that this will happen on my brick and mortar peers who are seeing this just, you know, crazy increases in digital penetration. They obviously have the most work ahead of them. So I'm very curious to see how they've planned peak differently than last year. Looking forward to seeing that play out.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be an interesting holiday season to observe for sure. So, this is retail during a pandemic after all. And so, even in the best of circumstances, things don't always go as planned during holiday, in various areas in inventory availability or shipping snafus or things like that. And Lands' End has really established itself as a customer-centric type of company. So I'm interested to hear, not knowing, what is going to be, what curveballs are going to be thrown at you during the holiday season. I mean, what have you done, or what are you doing to kind of set and potentially have to reset customer expectations? Is there like massive scenario planning that you're doing? Are you thinking about like where you may reallocate team members, where you have areas of more need? I mean, what are some of the things that you're, some of the planning that you're thinking about that, the people listening to this can kind of compare to what they're doing and see if there's any, gaps that they need to fill?
Yeah, I'm happy to share two things that I know for sure. The rest of us, speak of war room. That's a constantly developing story. But two things I know for sure. One is that for decades, it is a storied tradition that Lands' End employees of all rank and help it out at our warehouse during the peak season. So we all pack boxes when it's that time of year. I think most of the time the boxes I pack contain the right goods, but that's just something we do, and it's such an important part of our culture. Obviously, this year we'll have to be making some adjustments for social distancing, masks, so on and so forth. So we're working out how that's going to play out, but a major workload effort that is ingrained in our company culture. Then I'd say in a second is, we are prepared for shipping delays and what will be happening with our friends in the shipping industry. And to that end, because we are a customer focused company, we are doubling down on the customer communication. So I'll say the space between an order confirmation and an order status, where previously we've had one update, we may be sending 3, 4, 5, anything to stave off the dreaded Wismo calls. Where is my order? If anybody doesn't track that, to stave that off and to make sure that customer communication is front foremost in the website and all communication from there.
I love that. I mean, as a customer, like I'd rather get more communication than less, I'm waiting for something that's important to me. So that makes a lot of sense. And I hope that works out well for you as would be expected. I want to change directions a little bit. In your presentation, you mentioned some new distribution. And I know you've mentioned in the past about Lands' End launching a marketplace. Can you share a little bit more about what that is going to be, why you made the decision to do that? What does that mean for the business?
Well, we're excited to see how this goes. We have lots of traffic. We have amazing conversion. I'd say our product catalog right now is basically that which can fit inside of an actual catalog, an actual physical catalog. But if you look at our assortment and you look at our customer, we have obvious white space, I would say in home and shoes in particular. And under the framework of let's get comfy, we believe that kind of the world is our oyster. If it fits in that framework, we feel like it probably has a home in a Lands' End marketplace, and we're excited to bring these goods to our customer.
All right, great. So just maybe to wrap up a little bit here, I mentioned, this is not your first rodeo at Lands' End. In fact, I know you're a boomeranger to Lands' End as well, but you've been in a few other organizations. But any words of wisdom to everyone listening in as we all approach this holiday season, and how to stay customer centric through all of this?
Yeah, this is going to sound like a cliche bomb, so warning. You're on my team. You hear me say better is better all the time. And really what that means is just make progress don't aim for perfection. Our boss, our CEO, Jerome Griffith, has a saying he likes. I'm gonna have to pull it up. It's a kind of a Marine Corps tenet: improvise, adapt, overcome. So like I said, a major cliche bomb, but honestly, what we're finding with our teams this year, especially, that the simple messages, driving them back down to our teams, down and out to our teams, are what's sticking. And they see us putting it in practice, and they feel so much more comfortable acting that way as well. So that's what I have to say. Keep it simple. Inspire through your actions, and keep your words simple.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us as part of our holiday summit. And I wish the best to you and to the Lands' End team, and as few paper cuts as possible while you're all in the distribution center packing and wrapping and all that stuff. And I hope you have a tremendously smooth holiday season, although, you know, from what I learned in the last 20 minutes, kind of whatever gets thrown at you, it sounds like you're well prepared, you're composed, and you're going to make the most of it. So thank you again. Good luck. And I appreciate you being with us today.
Thanks so much, Scott.